So this comment about political voting comes up in Eurovision pretty much every year, and this video is not really anything to do with Eurovision 2024, but it's about Eurovision in general. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what political voting means. And it's very hard to define because is it countries vote based on similar political alliances? For example, the right wing countries vote for right wing countries, the left wing stick to left wings. That's not really the case. Is political voting really a way of saying that countries tend to vote for each other based on their neighbours? And that's probably a more common idea. But that's fairly okay if you think about it. If you grew up in the Baltic states, your Baltic music taste is probably quite similar whether you live in Latvia or Lithuania. I don't know, but that's a sort of guess I'm sort of taking. But actually, if we look at it at a much more sort of boring statistical level, there are some really clever people, and I'll put the YouTube link in the comments below, who've looked at political voting or neighbourly voting. And it turns out that blocks of voting patterns do exist. And what that means is that certain countries exchange points with one another. But even us in the United Kingdom, we're in a block. So we're in a really small block with Ireland and Norway, of all places. Now, we may say that we have a political alliance with Norway in so much as Northern Oil. But in other words, we don't really have that much. But we only exchange between 1 to 1.5 points between the three countries. Meanwhile, there are other blocks that have 7 or 8 countries in the block, and they exchange between 4 and 5 points to each other. So bigger blocks exchanging lots more points. So you may think, well, there is a political block. But actually, the winners every year are so dispersed across Europe that these blocks don't really make much of a difference. And actually, one of the things you can also say is when Bulgaria were in the competition, they were in a block with Spain. Now, geographically, they are nowhere near each other, and politically, they were nothing like each other. But for whatever reason, Bulgaria and Spain exchanged points with one another. So there probably is an element of neighbourly voting, and there's an element of maybe what you'd call political voting. And there's also what's called the diaspora, which is where people who've settled in other countries vote for their home nation. And we always classically say Poland is the best example of that, but actually Poland didn't qualify this year, so the diaspora vote is not that strong. So yeah, neighbourly block voting may exist, but it may bump up the position of certain songs, but it doesn't really tell you what the overall winner will be, and you can't predict a winner based by being in a certain block of nations.